into. There is a particular kind of pain that almost no one ever talks about honestly. Not heartbreak, not failure, not even grief. It's that quiet, into crushing feeling of looking around your life and thinking, I have no one. No one truly understands me. No one really has my back. If I fall into, it's just me. Maybe you have people nearby, family, coworkers, online acquaintances, but deep inside you still feel emotionally alone. Into, you might be the strong one for everyone else. The listener, the fixer, the one who gives advice. And yet, when it's your turn to fall apart, you don't know where to go into. If you're listening to this and something inside you is whispering, that's me, I want you to hear this clearly. This is not the end of your story. Carl Jung would say, into, when you feel you have no one, life is often pushing you into the most important relationship of your entire existence, the relationship with your own self. Before we go deeper into, let's make this moment feel less like a lecture and more like a real circle. Go to the comments and quietly write the city you're watching from. Just your city, Nairobi, London, into Lagos, Johannesburg, Toronto, Accra, New York, Sydney, wherever you are. There's something powerful about seeing how many people across the world are listening to the same message because they know what it feels like to be the one with no one. Into, and while you're there, if content like this, Jungian psychology, spiritual growth, deep emotional healing, speaks to your soul, take a second to like this video, subscribe, into, hit the bell icon, and share it with someone who might be feeling alone right now. You never know who needs to hear this. Now, into, let's talk about something no one explained to you growing up. Feeling like you have no one doesn't always mean you're failing at life. Into, sometimes it means you're transitioning into a new life. Sometimes it means you've outgrown the people and patterns that once surrounded you. Into, sometimes it means you're being pulled out of old roles so a truer version of you can rise. Jung believed life has a deep intelligence. He called it the self. Into, the inner center wiser than your conscious mind, always guiding you toward wholeness. When you feel like you have no one, it can feel like life is punishing you. Into, but from a deeper view, life is often shaking every false foundation so you can finally build on something real. So the question becomes, into, how do you rise when it feels like you're rising alone, not in a motivational poster way, not just think positive, but in a grounded, practical, into soul level way Jung would recognize as real psychological and spiritual growth. Let's begin right where you are, inside the loneliness itself. Into, you might look at your phone and see no messages. You might scroll social media and feel like everyone else has their people, their partner, their community. Into, you might go through your day doing what needs to be done, but inside it feels like no one truly knows how heavy your life feels on your shoulders. Into, the first thing you need to understand is this loneliness is not simply the absence of people. There are people who feel lonely in crowded rooms, in marriages, in families, in churches and communities. Loneliness at its deepest level is the gap between your inner world and your outer life. When who you truly are has nowhere to land, nowhere to be seen, heard, or met, you feel alone, even if your contact list is full. So when you say, I have no one, you might really be saying, I have no one who sees the real me. No one who asks how I am and is ready for the truth. No one I can lean on without feeling like a burden, and that hurts. For a sensitive, self-aware person, into, that kind of loneliness can feel like a slow erosion of the soul. But here is where Jung gently turns the mirror. If there is no one outside you holding space for your inner world, into, the first task is to stop abandoning it yourself. This isn't blame, it's an invitation, because many of us learn to treat ourselves exactly the way the world once treated us. Into, you feel afraid and you tell yourself, stop being weak. You feel sad and you say, others have it worse, shut up. You feel exhausted and you say, keep going. Into, no one is coming to save you. You have dreams and desires and you say, be realistic. Who do you think you are? We internalize the world's voices and then repeat them inside our own heads. Into, so one of the most powerful ways to rise when you feel you have no one is to stop treating yourself like no one. You become the person who finally does what others never did. Into, listen to you, believe you, stand up for you, care for you. This is what Jungians call reparenting. It's the work of becoming internally into the supportive presence you didn't consistently receive externally. Does that erase the ache of wanting real human connection? No, of course not. You're wired for relationships. Into, Jung knew that. We all do. But if you wait to rise until the right people appear, you hand your entire life over to chance. So what does rising alone actually look like? Into, practically and psychologically, it begins with a decision. A quiet, unglamorous decision. I will not abandon myself anymore. Into, even if the people around me don't know how to show up for me yet. That decision shows up in small ways. It's choosing to tell yourself the truth instead of distracting. It's making a simple plan for your day so you don't drift into hopelessness. It's going to bed at a decent time instead of numbing out until 30 hours a.m. Into. It's cooking a real meal for yourself even when no one is there to eat with you. These acts seem small, but from a Jungian lens, they're not. Into. Every time you take your own life seriously, you send a message inward. My existence matters. My energy matters. My thoughts, feelings, and body matter. Into. Even if no one else is treating me that way right now. Rising when you feel alone is less about one dramatic moment and more about a series of small, deliberate acts of self-respect. Now let's touch another painful piece. You might feel like you have no one because you spent years being everything for everyone else. Into the strong one, the fixer, the listener, the stable one, and then the quiet question hits, where is everyone now that I need someone? That realization can breed bitterness. Into, and honestly, that bitterness makes sense. Jung, however, would invite you to examine the pattern with curiosity instead of only pain. Were you ever given permission to have needs? Into, did you practice vulnerability regularly, or did you unconsciously build relationships around the role of, I help, I don't need help? This isn't your fault. It's adaptation. Into, many sensitive, deep people learn early that they're valued for what they give, not for who they are. So you lean into giving. You become useful. Into, you become the emotional anchor for other people's storms. But here's the cost. People start seeing you as a role, not a human. They assume you're fine. Into, they assume you don't need checking on. They assume you're strong and independent. So when your life collapses, it doesn't occur to them that you might need help. It isn't fair. Into, but it is a pattern. Rising when you feel you have no one means slowly stepping out of being a role and into being a person. It means practicing in small ways into what you were never taught, asking, not begging, not over-explaining, not apologizing for existing, just honest reaching out. I'm having a hard day. Into, could I talk for a few minutes? I'm feeling really low. Could we go for a walk? I could use some company tonight. Are you free? Sometimes people will be busy. Into, sometimes they won't show up how you hope. That will hurt. And this is where Jung would say, the goal isn't perfection. Into, it's consciousness. You're not waiting passively for the perfect friend to appear. You're becoming someone who can be supported. Into, you're learning how to let yourself be seen in need. And that's terrifying if you survive by being low maintenance and high capacity. Rising alone doesn't mean never reaching out. Into, it means reaching out while knowing you are still your own foundation if they don't respond. Now, another layer, purpose. When you feel like you have no one. Into, it's easy to slide into, what's the point? Oh, am I doing this for? No one will notice if I rise or fall. That feeling is soul killing. From a Jungian view, into, your life isn't random. You're not here just to orbit other people's needs. Your soul has its own direction, its own pattern, its own story unfolding. Into, rising when you feel alone means living for something bigger than approval and companionship. This is where meaning enters, not abstract meaning, but personal meaning. Into, ask yourself gently, if no one clapped, if no one posted about me, if no one fully understood my journey, what kind of life would still feel worth living? Maybe it's creativity. Into, writing, painting, building, music, storytelling, teaching. Maybe it's service, helping others heal from what you survived, supporting people where you once stood. To maybe it's learning psychology, philosophy, spirituality, science, feeding your mind in ways no one encouraged before. Maybe it's a quieter life, a garden, a small home. Each simple routines, peace instead of performance. Jung believed that when you live toward your own meaning, you align with the self. That alignment doesn't remove loneliness, into, but it gives suffering a direction. You're no longer just hurting, you're transforming. So how do you grow meaning when you feel emotionally alone? Into, you start where you are with the next right thing. You choose one thing to commit to for the next 30 days that serves your future self, not your old cycles. Writing 1 page. Into, walking 20 minutes, reading 10 pages, practicing a skill, recording voice notes, studying something that fascinates you. The goal isn't instant success. Into, the goal is proving to yourself gently and consistently, I can show up for my own life, even when no one is watching, even when no one claps, to even when I feel like I have no one. That builds quiet, unshakable self-respect. And self-respect fuels rising, because when you respect yourself, you make different choices. Into, you don't stay where you're disrespected. You don't beg for crumbs where your soul is starving. You stop chasing people who don't care whether you rise or fall. Into, you become more discerning with your energy. Loneliness shifts from no one wants me to I haven't found enough people yet who can meet me where I truly am. From there, into something subtle begins. Jung spoke about synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that guide your path. When you align with yourself, even privately, life sends small confirmations. Into, a book finds you, a podcast puts words to your inner world, one person appears and you think, you're my kind of human. Opportunities match your direction. This isn't magic, it's reflection. As you rise internally, the outer world slowly reorganizes, not all at once. There may be long seasons where it still feels like no one, into. But the more you refuse to abandon yourself, the more naturally you move toward people doing the same. One last hard truth, into. Sometimes you feel you have no one because the people around you simply can't meet you at your depth. If you're emotionally deep, psychologically aware, spiritually awake, into, your inner life may exceed what your circle has explored. They're not cruel, they're not bad. They're just not built for the honesty and healing you crave. Into, Jung would say, you're moving into a different level of consciousness. Rising then also means accepting that some rising happens away from certain people and patterns. Into, not from superiority, not from bitterness, from recognition. I can't keep shrinking my soul to fit rooms with no space for it. This takes courage. You may live in between worlds, into, not fully belonging where you were, not yet connected where you're going. That space is brutal, but sacred, because there you discover you can sit with yourself. Into, you can survive the ache. You can build parts of the life you want without full support. That knowledge stays forever. So if you're listening with that ache in your chest thinking, into, I really do have no one, hear me now, you're allowed to be tired, you're allowed to cry, you're allowed to say, I wish I had more support. That honesty doesn't make you weak, into, but after the tears, tonight or later, ask one brave question: what would rising look like for me this week with the resources I actually have? Not in 10 years. Not when life is perfect. This week, maybe rising is unfollowing accounts that make you feel less than, putting your phone down after 11 p.m., writing one honest page, into Googling one free resource that feeds your future, taking a walk instead of spiraling, sending one message asking for small support, even if your voice shakes. Into rising when you feel you have no one isn't dramatic. It's subtle, consistent, stubborn. It's refusing the story that says, because I'm alone, to my life can't move forward. Your life can move forward quietly, privately, invisibly, and often that's where the deepest power lies. Because when people eventually say, whoa, into, look how far you've come, you'll know the truth. You rose in the dark, when no one clapped, when no one checked in, when no one knew how hard it was just to keep going. Into, and you did anyway. That's the kind of strength Jung would call earned, not imagined. You didn't get it from a quote. You forged it in nights where it was just you, your thoughts, into your pain, and the small choice not to give up on yourself. As we close, I want two things from you. First, into, go to the comments and share one small way you're choosing to rise this week, even if you feel you have no one. Add your city to into, so you can see how many souls are walking this same internal path with you. If this spoke to something inside you, like the video, subscribe, hit the bell, into, and share it with someone in their own quiet battle. You may feel like you have no one, but your story isn't over. Your soul isn't finished, into. And the part of you that pressed play today, that part refuses to stay on the floor forever. That's the part Jung would say is guided by something deeper. Trust it. Feed it. Into, one day you'll look back on this season not with fake gratitude for the pain, but with real respect for the version of you who rose anyway when she had every reason to quit.